Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Joe from metalcore band Lightworker.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I just want to start out by digging into some history. What got you into music? Was it like a band or a guitar player or a singer, or what inspired you to follow this path?
I would say that I loved singing ever since I was like a like in kindergarten, really. Um, and growing up, my mom, I'm first generation here, um, so my mom would play a lot of traditional Latin music, but she would also play a lot of stuff that was kind of like a radio station over here in the Bay Area that had a lot of kind of like very like ballads, like rock ballads, and also Motown and soul. So I would say that that kind of stuff was really catchy. Obviously, I mean it's built for radio. So I think that kind of stuff is what really got me interested, and then in classical music because that's all I was allowed to listen to. So I listened to a lot of Bach. Tchaikovsky was a big one, which looking back on it, I think was probably the composer that got me into metal because he had a lot of like intense pieces, um, and then Mozart, Handel, Haydn, all that stuff. So and then there's a lot of similarities between metal and classical music also. So but yeah, that's kind of what I would say are like the origins of my personal uh, you know curiosity when it comes to music.
Okay. What are some of your musical influences as far as metalcore? What got you into that?
Oh, I would say that growing up, um, it was kind of like a gradual thing. Um, the first like rock band that I was actually kind of obsessed with, like I said, I grew up in a traditional home, so um, my mom didn't really listen to any rock or anything like that. So there was no, AC/DC, there was no Iron Maiden, for or any kind of metal, or there was just like no rock. So all the stuff that I found out about was, through that radio station, and so they would play "Semi Charmed Life" by Third Eye Blind, and I mean, it's a catchy song about drug abuse and sex, and I was just, and my mom, she didn't realize that, I didn't realize that, but and it turned out that her boss's um, uh, like kid who was a full grown adult actually was the merchandiser for Third Eye Blind. So I was given their self titled album, and then when the sophomore album came out. So um, and their original guitar player Kevin Cadigan had like these really catchy like lead guitar riffs that really just drew me in. And a couple of songs that they had, not like metalcore screaming, obviously, but it had some screaming in it, that was just kind of like. I remember like being in the car and turning it down intentionally when that would happen. Those like brief moments. That way my mom wouldn't get mad. and and then I would turn him back up. And then so that was like my first exposure to it. Um, and then I really got into kind of like a lot of the pop punk stuff, a lot of stuff that was like on Drive Through Records. So Newfound Glory, Phoenix TX, um, Homegrown, Midtown, and a lot of that stuff. But they signed a band called Finch, which bridged the gap between a lot of different genres, but still had a very strong, um, I would say, pop punk rooting, but there was a decent amount of screaming, and so that kind of got me used to it. And then I remember all my friends at the time started to get into heavier music, and I didn't want to be left behind, so I was just like, okay, well, I want to kind of find stuff that like I could identify with musically that had that same emotion that I felt like Finch had. And there was a couple of bands like a Static Lullaby, um, that was probably another one. But when I started to get into the like heavier stuff, the I would say Beloved was first. Um, they're this kind of an anomaly of a band that only released like worldwide, only released one EP and an album, and then they disappeared for over 20 years. They came back, played a couple of shows, released a cover and a new song, and disappeared again, like 20 years later, which is crazy. But they had this really cool blend of like hard rock, but and then the next moment there would be like crazy breakdowns. And I was just like, this is so sick. And I try to find other bands. I try to get more into metal. So the very first two metal CDs that I bought with my own money, or that I owned at all, were actually the compilation called Legendary by Zayo, and then Hasteday's debut album on both on Solid State Records, which my band is now on, um, and that was Burning Bridges by Hasteday, and that was kind of like my first exposure to metalcore, and then from there I kind of started exploring some more and found more, and so a lot of that early 2000s uh, metalcore stuff is basically in my DNA.
Now, how did Lightworker form?
That's a long answer. So I guess the short end of it is that I initially started this band because me and our drummer Ryan's old band broke up, and we were writing songs that we went into the studio for, and we ended up only recording 3 of the 4 song ideas, and I had that leftover song idea. And it's very rare for me to actually. I'm more of a parts guy when I contribute to writing. Most of the writing is taken care of by Grayson, our guitar player. But for whatever reason, I had like this pretty much fully written song, and I demoed it out, and the way I thought of it was like I'm just going to release it under kind of like a solo project thing, and then I'm just going to be kind of done. But my buddy Nick and we worked on it, and I paid him back then by giving him a free bass because I didn't have any cash. So I was just kind of like, hey, dude, if I give you a bass, like a decent bass too, um, you know, uh, will you record? And then because he needed one, and I was like, well, will you record and mix and master the song for me? He's like, sure, that's like an even trade. And my plan was just to like put it out there and then just kind of call it quits and focus on just anything else. And we had a lot of fun, and one thing led to another, and he and I just started writing other songs together, and we decided that we didn't want to put together a band immediately. We'd rather write the 2 songs together, and or not 2 songs, we would write a handful of songs together, just the two of us, and then potentially let a drummer in, which was Ryan. Um, and he jumped in the band for like a few months, and then he left for a handful of years, and then he came back um, right before we got signed. But anyway, but we went and recorded our EP, and because I guess our viewpoint was like, hey, we want to have like we don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen. We'd rather create this handful of songs, and whoever hears it and wants to be a part of it, that would be like the best way of picking band members instead of like having people tell us like where they would like the direction to go. You know what I mean? So, because Nick and I were very much on the same page. So that started, I think, I would say probably in like the seeds of it, probably late 2014. And then by 2015, we had a full lineup, and we started performing, and that included Grayson. He initially played bass because we already had two guitar players, and I was like, "Hey, do you just want to jump on?" And then, yeah, kind of the rest is history. You know, we've been through some lineup changes. Like I said, Ryan came back, and so we have three original members in the band, and you know, still on the hunt for you know, other permanent members, but the three of us are kind of the core now.
Okay. Now, how did you come up with the name for the band?
So that's something that we get a little bit of flack for. I didn't when I came up with the idea for it. It was definitely more of an influence from a band that I liked growing up called Yesterday's Rising, and they named an album called Lightworker. So I was like, that's really cool. Like I really like that name. I really what I had envisioned for this project was for it to be heavy, but you know, have like a quiet sense of hope in the music and lyrics. You know, um, but we were initially called Red Skies, and but then we were served with. Well, another band had the rights to that were broken up already, but they were like pressing us about it. So we were like, okay, we don't want to get sued. So I just thought of Lightworker. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was like, hey, that's. But apparently, it's like this whole new age movement, and I had no idea until like we actually had chosen the name. So a lot of people were just like, "Oh, are you guys like the like you know a part of that movement or whatever?" And even our producer who has our hoodie has been asked like, "Oh, are you a light worker?" And it's like, "No, it's a band that I work with." So it's it's one of those things where it felt right to describe the music, but we had no idea that there was like some sort of like new age like movement attached to it, which we're not you know involved with at all. We just thought it was a good way to describe our music.
Okay. What city are you based out of?
So we're from all over the the Bay Area, California. I live about 10 or 15 minutes away from San Francisco, so a lot of the times on stage, I'll just let it slip that we're from San Francisco. But we try to say we're from the Bay Area. But you know, Grayson lives about an hour and 20 minutes south of that, and our drummer Ryan grew up on in the East Bay, but now he lives in San Diego. So I mean, I guess the safe yeah bet would be just Bay Area, California.
Okay. I wanted to dig in a couple of your songs. Burn Scar. It has like an old school metal guitar lead at the beginning of the song. I don't know if you, but it sounds to me like that old classic type of heavy metal, like two guitar leads going back and forth, like overlapping and stuff. And Also, you got a lyric line in there, pull the dagger from our backs and walk away. Can you tell me a little bit about that song?
Sure. Yeah. I would say that guitar wise, we're very influenced by like just a lot of classic shredders and whatnot, and growing up in the early to mid 2000s, a lot of the bands that we liked were also heavily influenced from the 80s. You know, so I think it kind of just translated. I mean that lead is definitely like got the classic kind of like Iron Maiden kind of like twin guitars or any 80s metal band that's not Bay Area thrash. They kind of have the twin guitar stuff. So, but it's also very prevalent in the second wave of metalcore, like Killswitch Engage, um, Unearth, all those bands. So, and that's the stuff that we listened to growing up. So, I think just by them being influenced by it, then we were kind of like indirectly influenced by it. And I know Grayson definitely grew up around a lot of that kind of stuff too. So I think it just kind of like inevitably, uh, you know, um, is transposed into our music. And then in terms of the lyric that you mentioned for Burn Scar, the song is largely about hypocrisy, particularly from certain sects of religion and whatnot, and that to me that line is about how a lot of religious folks care about people kind of artificially. They'll say that they care about folks, but when it comes to helping out the poor and whatnot, they're just kind of like tough luck. You know what I mean? And so I think they're the ones that kind of like put in the dagger and then take it out and then they just walk away. So it's kind of like saying, hey, like you kind of put us here by denying poor folks or other folks that might discriminate against, and then just walk away. You do the damage and you just walk away. And I personally have am a man of faith, but I'm able to kind of witness that, and I'm personally just not cool with that. I'm like, hey, if you're gonna claim something, then be that. And I'm not saying compromise your beliefs or whatever, but there are some aspects of being religious where it's just kind of like, dude, there's no way around it. Like, if that's what you are claiming to subscribe to, then live it. So that's just kind of like that song is my frustration, particularly of the last 3.5 years that I've witnessed a lot of religious folks just kind of lead with anger and hatred as opposed to what religious folks are supposed to do.
Yeah, like leading by example, being authentic.
Exactly. Or and taking care of the poor and loving what your enemies and all that stuff. And I mean those are very, very those are the very foundations of religion, and especially here in the United States, and I feel like it's definitely been uh, lost on a lot of folks, unfortunately.
Down from the sky.
The next song is First Light, and I grabbed the lyric line out of there. I'm torn to shreds. This life is a rude awakening. When you're running out of reasons to live, I've given up on me. It it makes me feel like it sounds like you're defeated.
Absolutely. That song is about Easter 2022, and I don't I like in my struggle with wanting to end my life that day. I wrote those lyrics on that day. I tried everything. I felt so low. I tried to watch TV. I spent time with family. Try to play video games. Try to read. Try to talk to friends, and I couldn't shake it. And I was literally sitting at this desk with a knife to my left over here, and I was like, you know what? There's one. We have a brand new song that or a handful of songs that I needed to write lyrics to, and I was like, I'm gonna try to write lyrics to one of the songs, and that happened to be the First Light music. And so all those lyrics are from that day, of me sitting there and trying to find some reason to not, end it all. And after that stanza that you shared, there are three simple words, and which is like that heavy breakdown at the end, which are resuscitate, breathe again, and it's intentionally, you know, very blunt because I spent most of the song talking about how I was ready to let go, and then those three words, like, and it's the heaviest part of the song, so it's just kind of like, oh crap. And we get a lot of compliments about how heavy that breakdown is and whatnot, and I think it's just so suitable to have the lyrics be, resuscitate, breathe again, where it's like, the chorus lyrics talk about waiting for first light, so in other words, waiting until the morning, like sleep on it, you know what I mean? And yeah, you might not feel all the way better, but you'll at least be more focused, and you'll live another day to kind of fight those thoughts. And resuscitate, breathe again is just kind of like, okay, you're gonna wake up, be reinvigorated, and move forward. So, but yeah, that's probably one of the most. There's a lot of personal stuff on our new record, but that's definitely one of them. So that was uh, quite a first song to lead, the announcement of our new record.
Now, looking back on those lyrics, do they like still hit you hard?
I, I would say that they do, but in a different way. I would say that they now, to me, the song is more of a song of hope, and I think, and the basis of that song you know, is definitely finding some hope. But I would say that that song, now is more a celebration of life and good times. And so when I'm up there on stage, it feels like it's, and sharing that moment with people in the crowd. There's probably at least one person that needs to hear that. So I kind of view it as our message of hope um, to our listeners.
I'm torn to shreds. This life is a rude awakening when you're running out of reasons to live. I'm giving up on me. On me. Resuscitate. Breathe on me.
is your plans for the rest of this year?
Tour. Um, we're gonna be heading out in May with Dreamwake and our buddies from also from like kind of the Bay Area ish, uh, called Red Keep, and so we'll be hitting the Sun Belt in Texas, and then in June we have Capulet Fest. With August Burns Red, Haste Today, I Set to Kill, Nothing More, and plenty of other amazing bands that we listened to growing up. So, and some of our best friends on the whole planet, the Ongoing Concept, are also playing. So we get to see them, uh, and and then we, are trying to figure out. We're finalizing some dates for June as well, and then we're trying to figure out what will happen in the late summer / early fall, and then right before the holidays hit, we're trying to work some stuff out then too. And there's already very light talks about already hitting the road in early in 2025. So um, I think that's kind of the name of the game, is just trying to get out there and trying to meet as many people as we can, and just trying to hang out.
What about any new music during that time?
I would say that that's definitely, we're in light talks about that stuff. There's a couple of concepts and ideas that we're kind of throwing around, and there was a 3.5 year gap between our first record and How the Beautiful Decay. We don't want that to happen again. So we're definitely uh, reloading the song idea chamber, so to speak.
Okay. And that album releases April 19th.
Yeah, How the Beautiful Decay releases April 19th, and it's 10 songs, no instrumentals. It's just 10 actual songs, uh, and some of our most aggressive stuff to date.
Okay. How can we get a hold of you? Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, so obviously, all across social media, on Facebook, you can just look up Lightworker Band. That's also our handle on Instagram, Lightworker at Lightworker Band. Um, and then Twitter is also known as X now. I think that's Lightworker underscore SF. And then we're on TikTok also. And then I'm trying to think. We also have a website, lightworkerband.com, which actually has exclusive pre-order bundles directly available from the band um, for the new record, including special edition vinyl that you can't get anywhere else except through us. And yeah,
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
thank you so much for having me on, and also a shout out and thank you to everybody that's listened and checked out our music. And we can't wait to see you at Capulet Fest this year.